In this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to remove a background. I'm going to replace my background with just an image from the internet. In the search engine, I've gone under Tools and then gone to Large. That way I know that my background is going to be sharp. Just going to choose any background that I think will suit it, or maybe even this one. Once it's loaded, you pick up the photo and you drag it onto Photoshop. So let's just wait for that to load. Being a large image, it will take a little bit longer. So pick it up, drop it down. Using your move tool on the top left, you can move that image around. You can then go to edit free transform and you can change the shape of it, the size of it, the positioning. So you can even decide the flowers need to go over there and you can stretch it out more. If you want to rotate it, you can twist it around. So there's all different things that you can do with that background in the free transform tool. So I'm just going to do something like that. And then once you're happy with it, just tick the box up the top of the screen. On my right hand side in my layers panel, I need to make sure my picture layer is unlocked. So I just click once onto the lock and it disappears. I'm then going to drag my background underneath layer 0. The next step is very important. You need to make sure that you are on layer 0, which has your person or whatever you want to delete. We're now going to select our background and refine it by using any of these selection tools. For example, the quick selection tool. At the top of your screen, you can go to select and mask. Clicking onto that, you enter a new screen, which is the select and mask screen. The first tool is the quick selection tool. The second tool is the refine edge tool. Then you've got a brush tool, a lasso tool, a move tool, and a zoom tool. We're going to start with the quick selection tool. Then you've got two options up the top, add to selection and subtract from selection. And then you've just got the size, sample, or layers. On the right hand side, you've got your properties. Yours probably will look like this. So you've got global refinements, edge detection, and just smoothing, feathering, contrast. Down the bottom in your output settings, which yours will probably look like that. Click on the arrow and you can go to output. Make sure you have selected new layer with layer mask. At the top, again, under properties, you've got views. So there are all these different types of views. You can have marching ants, which is what we're going to use to start with, overlay, on black, on white, black and white, and on layers. I'll show you how to do those later. But let's start with marching ants. And then using the selection tool, click onto your open or close bracket tools on your keyboard. They're the square ones. And right one will make it bigger, left one will make it smaller. With your add tool, select your subject. Don't worry about making any mistakes. Do not worry about getting the hair perfect. It does not matter yet. Then tick the minus selection and fix up any errors. Make sure that you are selecting just the solid image. So anything that's see-through, don't even worry about that section. You can zoom in by holding Command on your keyboard and choosing plus. So you can actually zoom in really close. As you can see, I have skipped the hair, but the rest of it's pretty good. I've still got a bit of background in there, so I'm going to minus that even further. And maybe minus that bit there. Zooming out, Command minus, or you can use the eye zoom tool, that one. Okay, so we're now going to make that refinement perfect. So to have a look what we've got at the moment, go to your view option, And you can go to overlay, on black, on white, or black and white. So that's what I've selected at the moment. So if I wanted to put a black background behind it, that's what it would look like. So as you can see, it's a little bit messy, which is why we want to clean that up. I'm going to go to onion skin because I've already chosen my background. Yours might look like this because of your transparency. Once you bring that up to 100%, you can fully see what it's going to look like on that background. As you can see, there's a grey shadow, and I've got no hair, like none of the little wispy bits of hair selected, and this part looks dodgy, and so does the blanket. So to refine those selections, you're then going to use this second tool down, which is your Refine Edge Brush tool. Again, you've got plus and minus, you've got a brush sizing, and you've got the hardness. I'm just going to leave it as it is, and I'm going to zoom in on my computer by going Command plus, or use the eyedropper to go plus, minus, you can go back again that way. So, going back to my Refine Edge, using a brush sample size about that size so that you can have part of your hair and part of your background showing through, which you can do by using your closed and open bracket tools, or you can do it in here by clicking on the size, up to you. I'm just going to click and drag along that hairline to bring back those wispy bits of hair. This tool works so much better if you've taken your photo in front of a plain background. Could be a white background, could be a white wall, could be just any coloured wall. Using a black background, it's harder to determine the difference between the foreground subject and the background subject. I've got trees in my background, which some areas make it a bit more tricky to refine. So that's why these little shadowy areas are coming up here. But that's okay for the time being because I can fix that in a minute. So I'm just going to keep selecting over those things, and you'll see very clearly in this section that it will pick up the hair on the rug and ignore the background. Going across. So the more time you take doing this, the more accurate it's going to look. I'm doing a very quick version. If you've made a mistake, so I'm just starting with the plus tool, but once you've done that and you're pretty happy with the overall added areas, you can then go to the minus tool and you can minus back any areas that have gone too far. Okay, before I go any further, I'm going to show you the Decontaminate Colors box. Over the right hand side under Output Settings, so you've got the drop down arrow, tick Decontaminate Colors and have a look, because some images it works well and other images it doesn't. As you can see with this image, it has worked amazingly to get rid of these annoying final shadows. So before I start going into any more of the detail, if I tick that box, I have less refinement to do. Sometimes this program can be really slow, so you need to have a bit of patience. Go a bit slow, click a couple of sections and then wait. So I'm actually going to add that back in because that was part of my original selection. Now if that doesn't work, you can actually use your brush tool on the left hand side and you can freehand draw that back in, or erase it, whichever one it is. So that's erasing. So if I've accidentally gone on her face, put a hole on it, I can then add that back in. So that's the freehand one. That's looking pretty good. I really like doing it on the background that I want because you can really see if it's going to blend in well. If you have this on a black background, this one's actually worked pretty good, but sometimes you'll find that it just doesn't suit the picture. So I'm quite happy with that. You can also do things like smooth. It does slow the computer down, so do this last. Feathering. Feathering's the difference between a hard edge and a soft edge. So what that looks like is, if I increase my brush size, so brush minus, okay, that is a hard edge where you have a very sharp line. If I feather that, I can do it in hardness as well. So if I go 0% hardness, that's feathering it, and then I click, it actually blends it in with the surrounding area. So that's what feathering will do to your edges. I'm going to go back to plus and get rid of that because I don't want that in my picture. Okay, contrast is just going to sharpen your edges. Shifting the edge will actually take the selection back or add a little bit extra area in. So that's what shifting edge will do. I don't really need to do any of those because it was pretty good to start with. Once I'm happy with my selection, I think I might just fix up her hair a little bit up here. So again, the shortcut is Command plus, or you can go to the eyedropper and zoom in that way instead. But make sure you tick back onto Refine Edge when you're finished. I'm going to just check this hairline. I might even put this back onto 0 because I don't need it, and then minus a little bit through there as well. I don't think I'm going to get it any better because, as I said, I have a very complicated background. So as long as people can't see from a distance, I'm pretty happy with that. Once you're happy with everything, make sure you're on a new layer with Layer Mask. Click OK. You now have your layer with a mask covering the background. So the black areas have covered the background, the white areas are showing through the image. So anything black on this mask shows through anything you put underneath that layer. So I can then turn that off and my layer is transparent. I could go back to the internet. I could try a different background. So maybe I can try a blue background. Wait for it to load, drag it onto your screen, Command T, stretch it out, tick it. Don't forget to drag it underneath that layer, and voila, I now have a blue background. That's kind of cute, I like that. Another thing you can do, if you just want a plain white background, you don't have to get one from the internet. Next to the trash can down the bottom of your screen is a little thing called Create a New Layer. Click onto that, make sure it's underneath your photo layer again. Go to the left hand side and select the paint bucket tool, which is behind gradient. Or you can create a gradient if you want to. The paint bucket tool is just going to make the background the color that is selected down here. So if you want to change that color, just click once on it and you can choose whatever color you want. So if you want white, you can just click once and you've got a white background. If you want it to be black, you can even switch these over. Now it's black. You can have a black background. The gradient tool, the way that works, if I turn that off, add a new layer again next to the trash can, right click onto that one, gradient tool. This is going to make it go from black to white. I can change those colors to any of these rainbow colors, or I can make my own by clicking onto the gradient itself and then this one down the bottom, change the color. So I might go from a pale pink, click onto it, okay, down to white, so it's already white, so it's the bottom ones that you change as the color. Go to OK, and then with your mouse you click onto your screen and you drag down, or you can go from down to up and it'll be the opposite direction. So you've got gradient, or you've got plain black, or you've got a picture off the internet. Finally, another step that you can do is if you've got annoying things in your background, like for example the pavement, but I still like the trees, I could actually replace the pavement with my content aware tool using the trees, and then I could have my person on top of that. So turning off that layer, the top layer, working onto your background layer, I'm going to duplicate that by right clicking and going duplicate, otherwise Command J on your keyboard. I'm then going to get rid of the pavement using Content Aware. The instructions for Content Aware are on one of my other videos, so if you want to have a look at that, you can. Otherwise, you circle the area, fill, Content Aware. You can also, I'm going to go to this one, select this area. Doesn't matter if I get the skirt because I've already got my person on my layer up here. Content Aware. Okay, so if I add my person on top now, you can see that I can still see the skirt underneath. So I need to get rid of that. And the easiest way to do that is to get your rectangle tool or your freehand tool, select all your tree, well, a large area of it, right click, layer via copy, then you've got it on a new layer, so that's what I've just made there. The shortcut for that, so if I select this area, go back to my layer 0, select this area, the shortcut is Command J, so that'll do the same thing. Then, like we did earlier, Command T, drag that, you can change the size, or you can just drag it down, cover most of that area. Obviously, the smaller you do this, the more accurate it's going to look. Any of these straight lines here you want to erase, but don't just erase it straight onto the picture. Add a mask, then get the eraser, because then if you make a mistake, you can actually bring it back again. So if I accidentally erase too much, because I'm on a mask layer, I can then add that back in again. So this is a very advanced step, so you don't have to do this. I've got my opacity at 93%. If I want it to be completely solid, I want to go to 100%. I'm going to go back to my eraser. So go between the brush and the eraser. I'm going to go to layer 5 where I made one over here. Command T, move it on top of my person or my subject. Tick it, erase that line, but first add your mask. Now erase it. So I've now got more tree in front of her there. If I add that layer back on now, you can't even tell. So let's turn these off. So that was before, and then this is after adding those layers. I can merge these layers together to tidy it up by clicking onto the background copy, holding Shift and clicking onto layer 5. So they're all grayed. Right click, merge layers. That'll put them onto their own layer. So now you can really see the difference. So you got before, after, or if I want my pretty picture background, I can do that again. If I want this one, I can do that. Anything on top will cover whatever's underneath. So that is a very advanced technique on how to replace your background. Thank you for listening, and I hope you enjoyed my video. Don't forget to go File, Save As, and make sure it's a TIFF document in case you want to make any adjustments later. Because if you don't, and you make it a JPEG, all you will have is this picture, no other layers, so you won't be able to go back and fix any mistakes. Thanks for listening.